Hey, friend. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Pour yourself a coffee. Get comfortable. Today, I just want to talk heart to heart about something that's been anchoring me lately. Maybe you're in a season where things feel impossible. A situation at home, a health report, a financial mountain, a relationship that seems broken beyond repair. Your mind is going in circles, and that quiet, nagging voice whispers, "This is too much. Nothing can fix this." Let me be real with you. I know that feeling. I've sat in that chair. And in those moments, I've learned to run to one specific powerhouse verse in the Bible. It's a truth so simple, so massive, that it has to recalibrate our entire perspective. It's from the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 32, verse 27. God says, "I am the Lord, the God of all mankind. Is anything too hard for me?" Just that sentence. Let's just sit in it for a minute. Is anything too hard for me? It's not just a statement. It's a question, directed right at you, right at me, right at our specific, sleepless night worry. But to really feel its weight, we can't just pluck it out. We have to see the crazy situation Jeremiah was in when he heard it. This is key. God told him to do something that made absolutely zero sense. Jerusalem was under siege by the Babylonian army. Enemy troops were literally outside the walls. And God tells Jeremiah, "Hey, your cousin is going to offer to sell you a field. Buy it." Buy a field? In a war zone? When the entire nation is about to be taken captive? It's like investing in beachfront property during a tsunami warning. It was a financial and practical disaster. But Jeremiah obeys. He signs the deed, gets it witnessed, and then he prays. And his prayer is basically, "God, you are awesome and powerful. But what did I just do?" You can almost hear the confused faith in his voice. And that's when God responds with our verse. "I am the Lord, the God of all mankind. Is anything too hard for me?" God's point was, "Jeremiah, this deed isn't about agriculture. It's a receipt. It's a promise. This land that seems lost, you will own fields in this land again. This exile that feels final, it is not the end of the story. I am writing a check for a future you cannot see." Now let's bring it home, to our lives. The impossible things. That diagnosis, that addiction you or a loved one can't shake, that child who's wandered off, that dream that seems dead, that bitterness you can't let go of. We look at our field, surrounded by enemies, and say, "It's hopeless." We see the siege, not the seller. We see the circumstance, not the God who rules over all circumstance. And God leans into our situation, just like he did with Jeremiah, and asks us that personal, tectonic question. Is anything too hard for me? Notice he doesn't start with the problem. He starts with his identity. I am the Lord, the covenant God, the personal God, the God of all mankind, the sovereign God, the one who holds nations and neurons, galaxies, and gut feelings in his hands. He establishes who he is first. Because our faith isn't in a positive vibe or a vague higher power. It's in this specific, all-powerful person. So, what does this mean for us practically? A couple of things. First, it means our prayers can shift from please to I believe you can. It changes our posture. Instead of just bringing God our list of impossibilities, we come declaring his nature. God, this looks impossible to me, but I am talking to the God for whom nothing is too hard. So I place this in your hands. I trust your character, not just my desired outcome. Second, it means our obedience, even when it doesn't make sense, is an act of faith. Maybe your buying the field is forgiving when you don't feel like it. It's choosing joy when depression lurks. It's being generous when the bank account is low. It's saying yes to a prompting you don't fully understand. You're signing a deed on a future God has promised, even if you can't see it yet. Third, and this is so important, it doesn't mean He will always do the miraculous thing we have scripted in our heads. God's "nothing is too hard" includes His wisdom. Sometimes His mighty power delivers us from the fire, like with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And sometimes His mighty power sustains us in the fire, leaving us unsinged but still in the furnace. Both require the same omnipotent God. The hardest thing for Him might be getting our stubborn hearts to trust Him in the process. So, friend, I don't know what your impossible thing is today, but I do know the God who stands before it. And He is asking you gently, firmly, lovingly, "Is anything too hard for me?" Your answer to that question is where your peace begins. It's the pivot point. Let's not end this just with a nice thought. Let's make it active. This week, when that worry hits, when that fear rises, I want you to speak that verse out loud. Say it to the empty room, to the steering wheel. God, you are the Lord. Is anything too hard for you? This is not too hard for you. You are reminding your heart of the truth. You're buying the field of faith. You are not alone. The same God who spoke to Jeremiah is with you right now, and He is more than able. You know, I was thinking after we finished last time, it's one thing to hear that truth, to feel that surge of hope. Nothing is too hard for Him. Yes. But then, Monday morning comes. The doctor calls back. The bill arrives. The old habit whispers. And that impossible thing feels just as solid, just as heavy as it did before. So how do we live in the reality of Jeremiah 32:27 when our circumstances haven't budged yet? How do we hold on to, "Is anything too hard for me?" in the waiting? Because that's often where faith is really built. Not in the moment of deliverance, but in the long, quiet space between the promise and the answer. Let me share something personal. There was a situation in my family that I prayed over for years. I claimed this verse. I shouted it sometimes in my car. And yet, month after month, year after year, things seemed to get worse, not better. I started to wonder, did I hear you wrong, God? Is this thing actually too hard? And in that struggle, I found two more gems hidden right in Jeremiah 32. Right after God asks that famous question, He goes on. Let's look at it. In verse 38, God says about His people, "They will be my people, and I will be their God." And in verse 39, He promises, "I will give them singleness of heart and action." Whoa, do you see the connection? God's power, His "nothing is too hard" power, is ultimately directed toward a relationship and a transformation. His ultimate goal isn't just to rearrange our circumstances like a celestial fix-it man. His goal is to make us His people, to be our God, and to unify our hearts to follow Him. That changed everything for me. It meant that in the middle of my unresolved, impossible situation, God was doing a deeper, harder work. In me, He was asking, "Can you trust my power, even when I'm using it to change your heart before I change your circumstance? Can you believe I'm able, even when my priority is making you more wholly mine?" That's the singleness of heart part. It's the peace that comes when our deepest need isn't for the problem to vanish, but for God to be our God in the middle of it. When our prayer slowly changes from, God, take this away, to God, be my God in this. Unify my heart to trust you, no matter what. So what do? We do what Jeremiah did. After he bought the field, after he obeyed in that crazy act of faith, the Bible says he took the deed, this tangible proof of a promise, and he put it in a clay jar so it would last a long time. That's our practical takeaway this week. We need to put our deed in a safe place. We need to create a reminder. Maybe for you, that's writing Jeremiah 32:27 on a sticky note on your mirror. Maybe it's setting a daily alarm on your phone titled, Is Anything Too Hard for God? Maybe it's writing out the story of your impossible thing in a journal, and underneath it, writing that verse as your official, signed deed of trust. Because here's the beautiful, hopeful end of Jeremiah's story. The field he bought, the land he walked away from under enemy siege, he did it to secure a future he would never see personally. But his children, his grandchildren, they would return. They would inherit that land. His act of faith was an inheritance for a future generation. Your act of faith today, your choice to believe that nothing is too hard for God in your marriage, your health, your loneliness, your purpose, that isn't just for you. It's building a legacy of trust. It's storing up a promise in a clay jar that will outlive the siege you're in right now. You are signing a deed for a future hope. So this week, let's hold our specific worry in one hand, and this verse in the other. And let's say, God, I don't see the way. This feels impossible, but you are the Lord. You are my God. And because you are, I am putting the deed of this situation in your hands. I trust your power, your timing, and your heart to do what is ultimately best. Give me that singleness of heart to follow you. Right here, right now. You've got this. Not because you're strong enough, but because He is able enough. And with Him, truly, nothing is too hard. I'm cheering you on. Let me know how that deed holding goes this week. I'll be doing it right alongside you. Until next time, walk in that peace.